If you are a fan of the Chronicles of Narnia, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, then you will love this interview today. Welcome back to another episode of the Cool FM Book Club with Jeff Davenport, brought to you by SSVEC, Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative, serving our community. We have got a couple of amazing books right here, but even more amazing than these books is the brain that it comes from, and that is from the one and only Angela Hansen. Angela,
Hello.
So good to see you.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, thanks so much for being here and doing this with us today and talking about this whole world that you've created. And we'll get to this in just a second, because each of the links for the Amazon purchases that you can purchase these books through Amazon is in the post description. And you're going to want to do that, especially when we talk.
Many have not ever seen the light of day, but these ones, I had to write these and I had to get them out there because they just would not let me sleep. They kept me awake at night, and it was just so much fun to write these, and I just love them so much, and I hope others will read them too.
Well, I mean, why don't we just go in and talk about these? So what is here is this entire kingdom that you've created.
Yes.
How do you come up with an idea? And again, for those of you wondering, these books are no joke. Where did the idea of this kingdom come from? How did you just sit down one day? Were you watching Lord of the Rings and ate some weird pizza and then had a dream or something? How did this all work?
Actually, it was inspired by this town. I was driving, I always get the roads mixed up, 92, and the mountains, off to the right. And the weather was it was kind of overcast and it looked kind of menacing. And I just thought of like a society or a culture who gets split in two. A people who were one are now separate and know nothing about the other. And what happens when that divide, there's a rift in it and it opens up, and now they're coming back together. And
the interesting part is, in book one, when you order this on the Amazon links in the post description, the world is already there. You just jump into it, and the way you're describing the characters, I mean, the first couple chapters is like literally just 2 hours of time or something like that. It's very quick, but did you read a lot of fantasy style books as a kid?
My favorite.
Okay?
Oh, yes.
And who are some of your favorite authors?
Well, my favorite modern authors, I have one. I just eat her up. It's Ella Fields, and she writes some amazing little fantasy adventures. She doesn't really do like the long worlds, but she does like quick little short, and each one is like a different world. And I just love her. And then of course, you have the J.R. Tolkien,
Yeah.
and then I have not read them, but I've seen the show. George R. R. Martin, the Game of Thrones. I do with this as well. As far as the characters, like what inspired that, the princess, the main character, her name is Kiara, and I so often in modern stories now we see like the heroine who is like tough as nails and is she has all the answers, and she comes out here ablazing and is like I can do this, And I was like, but what about the person who has doubts? What about the person who knows that they're destined to do this great? And so she's just isolated, and she doesn't really know what it is to live because she's never had the chance to. So that was my inspiration for her. I didn't want a heroine that had all the answers, would come out be like, yeah, let's do this. She knows she has to, but she's kind of reluctant.
Well, and she gets help along the way, and there's other characters that you've developed. When you're crafting something like this, obviously to get to a point like this where you can put one novel together, much less a series, and we'll talk about the rest of the series here. What does it take to do just to put something on paper and keep the muscle flexed, basically, the imagination muscle flexed? What is your process as you obviously had the idea from the mountains, and then the two kingdoms? Where do you build from there? How does it continue?
So I have mad respect for authors who can do that. I can't. I am not one who can write that way. I do start with like a notebook and an outline, and I start kind of like building the characters and like, oh, this would be good, and ideas like that. It never stays the same. It always changes.
So you don't use
it doesn't work, and I'll fall asleep, and next thing I know, the scene just plays out in my dream, and I gotta get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and go write it down before it disappears.
Now you mentioned actually, you said notepad.
Yes.
So you actually handwrite, or do you type?
Well, if it's at night, I have my phone sitting on my bed next to me, and I have a notepad on my phone, so it's like full of little like random thoughts at like 3 in the morning, like, oh, do this, and then no, that won't work, and I'll like scratch it out. But I also do have a handwritten notebook as well. That's the start, is the handwritten.
And work out the chords and the progressions and kind of fulfill that idea. Kind of the same thing with you. That way it doesn't just fall out of your head and you forget it.
Exactly.
How often does that happen? How many 3 a.m. Emergencies in the notebook or on your note app was this?
Too many. I actually tell like my day job, my work. I'm like, if I'm like calling off sick, it's probably because I didn't get any sleep because I stayed up late writing. I'm like I'm probably not really sick, but I want to turn it into a story. Don't hesitate. Just start. I promise you, the end result is never going to be what you started with. But the more you do it, the better you become. And like my first story, I'm like, no, not good. And then I had another series that I had published before, but I recently took off because I was like, no, they can be better. So you're constantly always, trying to make it to the point where it's better. This one actually, surprisingly, was the first time where I wrote it.
Davenport here, brought to you by SSVEC. Did the ideas come quicker because it was always going to be a certain number of novels, or was it just this one at a time and then it opened up the door of the creativity to be able to go and continue the story?
Actually, that changed too. Initially, I had planned for 3 books, and then as I was writing, I realized there was more to tell, and so now it's 5. So two books got added, and I'm on the 3rd one right now. And
so what's that process like when you create them as you're like going downhill, kind of?
I would say, yeah. I think the further along you get, the more honed the story is, and the more solid the direction is that you want to take it, you want to go. So that's why the first one took a little bit longer, because I was still kind of feeling it out, the characters, who they are, where they're going, what their purpose will be. And then by the second one, I pretty much had everyone identified, and then moved forward. Then by the 3rd one, I just basically had one character totally surprised me with the rest of the story. And I discovered that I had actually set the groundwork for this to happen without even realizing it.
That's insane, Angela.
So, I was like, it was like, again, like midnight, and I'm like, oh, and I look around, there's nobody there, it's me and the dogs. The dogs don't care. And I had no one to share it with, but I was just like, oh my, like it was just shocking. And it's been a journey. It's been such a fun journey writing these.
Well, it's a fun journey for us to talk about them. I've often heard it said, I believe it was James Cameron who said, the film director, the Academy Award winning, when you were crafting this one with the ideas of 3 and then 5, how did you know at what point to abandon, these 2 books in order to pave the way for number 3?
So I think what it is do I feel resolution as the author? When I type those last words, do I feel fulfilled? If I feel fulfilled, and hopefully the reader will feel fulfilled as well. And then also too, you don't really want it to end in a spot where it's just kind of like, add that little enticing, that little nugget, the carrot on the stick to get them to come back for the next book. And I hope that's your experience when you finish.
Oh, it already is. I mean, again, I'm embarrassingly through a small portion of book number 1, and the ride that it takes you on is really a journey. And I'm one of those visual people. So as I read, I'm audio and visual. So when you're reading, it's different. Like I'm reading it as if I was the author of the audio. And it's like, well, we've all felt that. We've been at the ocean, or we've been at a lake or something, and we felt the drops on our face, or like a really humid day in Sierra Vista, and you just kind of feel it on your face. And there's so many tangible things that even as you're reading, it's like you're there, you're watching, you're seeing it unfold, and you're learning about these characters. And all of a sudden, there's a big twist toward near the beginning of this book where it's like, whoa, what just happened? And you really have a hard time putting it down. And is that
I've come across have been like dark fantasy, clean fantasy, romantasy. I don't know if I would fit these into necessarily one single category, because there's dark themes. There's mention of some, pretty volatile emotional events that happen. But I wouldn't necessarily say clean, but they're not like the ones where you see all popular where, it's adults only.
Safe, from what I've read so far, it seems to be the right age for that. But I think any age can, especially over the 16 years old, can really enjoy this and just sit there and go on this adventure.
And that was what I wanted. I didn't want this to be only a certain population, could read. I wanted it to be accessible to those who, a young adult growing up, dealing with things that these characters are dealing with. You might not be dealing with the fantastical gods element and stuff like that, but it
is a massive adventure that these characters go on. as you're working your way through the Adara series, and you've got the 5 in mind, you're working on number 3. These are the 2 that are published out right now. Do you ever, are you working on anything else just to keep the creative juices going, or is it all of your focus on number 3 right now?
So I have another series in the works that keeps like plucking at the back of my brain. I've started the notebook. I've started taking little, notes and developing, and I actually did plan out what would happen. Sort of.
Gosh.
It is in the same realm, the same universe. But those people don't know any of these people. And I'm not going to tell you why, because that's one of the reveals. That's one of the reveals in this series, why they don't know each other, why they don't even know that others exist, in the world. And so that next one will be a tie-in. There will be elements from here in there, but these characters won't connect with those.
Here, there's no pictures or anything like that. It is a story. Can you see what these people look like? Like again, I'm an audio and visual person. I hear the audiobook as I'm reading it, but then I also see a script that would go to a production company,
awesome.
and I think I was wondering. I was like,
I'm accepting offers.
How would this be? Would this be more of TV or movies? And I could see both easily. Particularly because I'm sure you see it differently than I do. I read it and I'm like, I bet you describe the characters very, very well. But there's something about seeing someone on a screen that says, "Oh, that's the character," or that, or like, do you see like, "Oh, yeah, Daisy Ridley would play Kiara," or something
kind
like
of,
that?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was talking to my friend about this last night. In fact,
during Native Game Night.
Yes, it was. In fact, it was during Native Game Night. She won. I did not. So the queen between was it Mary and Elizabeth in England? And the actress who they had playing Queen Jane, I remember I sat there and, oh my God, that's Princess Kiara. And so I searched online for her and got a photo, and so I would have that with me as inspiration. And so that's typically what I try to do with the characters. I'll try to find photos, representations in literature or in art or in real life. I see someone walking down the street, I'm like, take it quickly, oh, that's them. As part of it, I'll take I'll see something, I'll be like, oh my God, take an element from here, take an element from there, and then create my own amalgamation of who I think that they look like.
So looking at over the course of this now 5-book series, initially 3, now extended to 5, you're working on number 3 as we speak. How many years of these characters are we looking at? Like when we get to the 5th book, the last page of the 5th book, how long has it gone on? How many cycles or seasons, or in our term years, would it be from book 1, beginning of book 1 to the end of book 5? So
from book 1 to halfway through book 5, it's actually only 1 year.
Okay.
And then
that's a lot of activity in 1 year.
Yes. And then the rest of book 5, it kind of goes like a speed, through quite a jump of
Would there
time.
be a chance to add a 6th or 7th book, or are you are you pretty set on 5?
I'm right now I'm set on 5. Okay. I really hope it doesn't change
How do you feel when each of these books has completed?
Bittersweet. Because it's I'm on the journey with them, and I understand they're fictional characters, but they're real to me because I'm writing them and I'm going through what they're going through. I had one death scene and I wrote it, and I was crying when I wrote it because, the character, the mother who just lost her daughter, I was devastated for her. Because it was like I was there, seeing what she was seeing. It will definitely be a happy moment, but also a sad moment.
Let's talk about the publishing side of things. Again, local author Angela Hansen, Jeff Davenport, the Cool FM Book Club, encouraging us to read a little bit more in our day and expand our learning. Well, no matter what you read, we want you to read more, whether it's biography, autobiography, or adventure, fantasy series like what Angela has put together here. Publishing side. Publishing world is a lot different today than it ever has been. How did you go about doing the publishing for these books specifically?
So I initially, with the self-publishing, it allows you an opportunity to at least put it out there and interact with it and interact with readers and see, you know, like maybe there is a market out here for that. Maybe there is an audience. It's a lot of work though. Yeah. It is a full-time job all in itself, especially if you do it all yourself, because it's not just enough just to write the story. You've got all the other elements that go into it, like the editing, the formatting, your book, your cover design, you know.
And is that what you chose to do?
I do it all myself.
Okay, so you continue on with that.
Oh, yeah. So Amazon has made it fairly easy now for self-publishers to do this. It is very user-friendly. There are some, you know, we'll say QA issues, quality assurance issues sometimes with their paperback copies. But my experience with that has been the majority of the ones I receive are actually, they're perfect. They're bound well, they're done well, there's no mistakes. I just recently uploaded them to the Barnes & Noble Press, which is their version of what Amazon does with the self-publishing. And what they essentially book fair next month in Tucson, the Tucson Festival of Books.
Which is massive, by the way. If you've never been to that, you have to go see it. It's absolutely amazing.
March 15th and 16th. And I'm bringing books there with that. You know, I ordered a bunch of author copies to bring to that. So there's so many options out there for people who want to do this journey, but you have to have the stomach for it. You have to have the motivation. You have to have the drive, and you have to have a thick skin, because you're going to get people who are going to be negative towards you for whatever reason.
And being able to drown out the noise, focus on the story, and bring it to the people going to the Festival of Books, which is a big deal. And you'll have a little booth there and stuff?
I will, yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Booth 425. And entry is free. There's no charge for people who want to go to it. And they have so many amazing authors on there. They have both other indie authors and traditionally published authors attending. They're going to have like forums where you can sit in and listen to the authors.
It's like a Comic-Con of books.
Yeah,
is what it is.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I'm super thrilled that I was chosen as one. It was totally worth the money spent. It was not cheap though. So again, if you're going to go in this journey, you're going to look into events like that. Know that you are going to be spending some money in order to get reach and and get people to know who you are. I'll let you know at post after if I feel like it was advantageous for me. But
I think it will be. I think anytime you're able to get into the public sphere, even if there's hundreds of other authors, but there's still going to be tens of thousands of people who walk through the Festival of Books in Tucson.
Be ready by March. I had originally planned for February. Life happened. Things, got in the way, so I had to delay it a bit. But I am currently on chapter 4 of edits, so hopefully I can get that done.
I mean, that's huge then. Yeah. I mean, because again, chapter 4 is just a small segment. But if you've got it all done and you're just through the editing process,
correct.
During the editing process, do you find yourself making any course corrections, or is it just context or content?
I would say it's both. For me, when I go through it to see if I made any sort of grammatical errors out, and I write on it. And you can see like different colored pens for different things, and it looks like a complete and total like school nerd notebook. But I love it, and it's so much fun. Sometimes though, it can be hard to do your own editing because when you're reading it, what you want it to say, and so you'll read that even though that's not what it says.
Interesting.
So if you do this, if you do decide to go on your writing self-publishing journey, I do recommend you accumulate a group of people who are willing to read the stuff before.
In just over a month from now, I can't wait. Oh my gosh! But this is an adventure that is so much fun. That's why I love speaking to creators and authors about how they come up with these ideas, and literally a book series that was inspired because of the Huachuca Mountains. That's how it started.
Yeah, that was how it started.
That's crazy. That's so cool. You think of all the natural elements that have caused people. Here Comes the Sun, one of the greatest Beatles songs of all. It's all there's elements in nature that we see that inspire the creatives. And
walk out my front door, I get to see those mountains. And then I put them in a book.
It's absolutely incredible. The whole Kingdom of Adara series is waiting for you on Amazon right now. The links are in the post description to purchase these 2 books and go on an adventure of a lifetime. And if you're like me, you're hearing my voice being the audio book person, and then you're seeing it on a big screen somewhere in some movie theater or some big TV screen.
We'll make it like a Sierra Vista exclusive.
Yes, exactly. We'll put together the screening. We'll do a special screening. What other encouragement could you give them before we go?
Find someone to bounce your ideas off of. Someone who you can verbalize what you're thinking and work it out, because what makes sense to you might not make sense to somebody else. And it is just helpful. It is nice to have someone to have that, because then if they're excited, you're excited, and it keeps you motivated and keeps you, yourself entertained, because the monotony of all the stuff that goes into writing and publishing can kind of drag you down sometimes. So definitely find and little extras and tidbits so that they can be excited about it. So they'll talk about it with others and get others excited about it. And then that way, you can grow your outreach, I guess, your reach, your little fan club, if you want to call it. So definitely do the newsletter. So my newsletter is on my website, AngelaLHansen.com.
Which is in the post description.
Yes. And you can just sign up for that. You'll get monthly exclusives. You get little chapter, sneak peeks, things that, I'm involved in.
Kiara and how she makes her way through this divided kingdom and her family and all the people who are along the ride with her. I promise these will be books, this book in particular, the one that I'm still working through. It's hard to put down. There's so much going on, and it's such a fun ride. And thank you for taking us on this fun ride here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is so fantastic. It's Angela Hansen. Again, for more information on her, you can find her website in the post description, as well as the Amazon links for these two books. Great gifts for friends or an author or know an author who would like to be featured on the next episode or a future subsequent episode of the Cool FM Book Club. Be sure to tag them in this video. Contact Todd Ryan at Cool FM Live and let him know, and we'll try to set that up. But in the meantime, Angela Hansen, the Kingdom of Adara, is waiting for you to take this journey on with Princess Kiara and